Imagine a man who destroys every opponent he touches, every fight, every round, every punch, no mercy, no mistakes. 100% of his world title wins by knockout. Most boxers dream of being great. Artur Beterbiev doesn't dream. He builds greatness with his bare hands. He doesn't rely on speed, flash, or fancy footwork. He relies on power, precision, and a mind that never quits. From early mornings in the gym to punishing road work, from shadowboxing to brutal sparring sessions, every movement, every swing, every strike is engineered for one thing: absolute dominance in the ring. This isn't luck. This isn't natural talent. This is Artur Beterbiev, the man who turns discipline into violence, technique into terror, and training into an unstoppable weapon. And today, we're going inside the grind, the secret methods, and the brutal routines that make him the most feared puncher in boxing today. To understand how Artur Beterbiev trains today, you first have to understand what built him. Born in Khasavyurt, Dagestan, he was shaped inside the Soviet boxing system, a machine designed not to create stars, but to create complete fighters. A system focused on discipline, repetition, and long-term development. The Soviet philosophy was simple: no shortcuts, no flash, just years of structured volume training, endless drills, and constant refinement until every movement became automatic. And Beterbiev lived this. He fought in more than 300 amateur bouts, a number almost unheard of today. Modern prospects usually turn pro after 20 or 30 fights. Beterbiev had 10 times that experience before he ever put on professional gloves. This foundation gave him something money or genetics can't replicate: comfort under pressure, elite timing, and a work capacity bordering on inhuman. He learned how to stay calm in chaos and how to break opponents systematically. When he moved to Canada and began training with Mark Ramsay at the Groupe Yvon Michel gyms in Montreal, he didn't leave his roots behind. He fused Soviet fundamentals with modern strength science and advanced conditioning, creating a hybrid system perfectly aligned with his brutal, pressure-first style. At the core of that philosophy is one rule: training must be harder than fighting. Beterbiev doesn't taper much. He doesn't like light days. His sparring sessions are legendary, violent, intense, and often 12 to 15 rounds, even when the fight is only 12. If he survives hell in the gym, the actual fight feels like work, not war. Strength and conditioning, the Soviet influence. When you look at Beterbiev's strength and conditioning work, it becomes obvious that he's a product of old Soviet training philosophy. His physical preparation is built on the same fundamentals he learned growing up in Dagestan, and later developed through Russia's structured boxing system. High-volume work, basic compound movements, and exercises chosen specifically to produce real, transferable punching power. He always begins with the base of every true fighter: road work. Long, steady morning runs that build lungs and mindset. But that's only the start. He adds layers of difficulty, sprinting up stadium stairs when the seats are empty, powering through uphill bursts until his legs feel heavy, and working on sidestep and backward sprints that sharpen his balance, coordination, and ring movement. Once his legs are burning, he picks up the jump rope. Minutes turn into rounds, and rounds turn into rhythm. It trains his timing, his footwork, and his ability to stay relaxed under pressure. After the running comes the violence. Beterbiev's conditioning is full of raw, explosive tools. Sledgehammer swings into a heavy tire, building hip drive and shoulder endurance, and battle ropes that test his grip, stamina, and mental toughness. These aren't random exercises. Every motion mirrors the mechanics of throwing a punch with bad intentions. His push-up work is another world entirely. He doesn't rely on the typical boxer routine. He pushes from his fists to strengthen his wrists, from his fingertips to harden the hands, and even from his ankles to challenge stability and balance. Then there are the clap push-ups, building that explosive pop that you can see in every short-range punch he throws. Then comes the weight training. Always simple, always heavy, always controlled. Bench press, squats, dumbbells, and basic compound lifts. Nothing flashy, just movements proven for decades to build full body power. He trains like someone who only cares about one thing: force. The ability to push, pull, and explode with maximum impact. His core work might be the toughest part of his entire routine. Beterbiev doesn't just train his abs, he trains his trunk like a weapon. Medicine ball throws, sit-ups where he launches the ball mid-rep, rotational movements that twist the hips and spine with force. Every drill is about producing torque, the kind that turns a simple punch into a punch that breaks bone. And then, when the session should be over, he finishes with something most fighters skip: neck work. Wrestling-style holds, resistance bands, weighted movements. Years of this training have built a neck that barely moves when he gets hit. It's a big reason why his chin is legendary and why he walks through punches that would stop champions. This is the true foundation of Artur Beterbiev. Not physique, not aesthetics, just decades of hard, unforgiving training that turned him into one of the most naturally destructive punchers in the sport. Everything he does in the gym connects back to one goal: build power, build endurance, and break whoever stands in front of you. Technical work, precision behind the power. People see the knockouts, the pressure, the broken opponents, but none of that exists without the technical foundation behind it. Beterbiev's skill is built through slow, deliberate practice where every movement is repeated until it becomes automatic. His power looks wild, but it's actually engineered with precision. Everything starts with his longtime trainer, Mark Ramsey. Their mitt work is the anchor of Beterbiev's technical routine. These aren't flashy combinations for social media. They're controlled, purposeful rounds where Ramsey guides him through clean punch sequences, defensive triggers, and perfect weight transfers. They spend entire rounds just refining the angle of a step, the snap at the end of a punch, or how quickly he returns to balance after committing his power. Ramsey's pads keep Beterbiev sharp, efficient, and technically exact. Once the pad work is done, the tone changes. Beterbiev moves to the heavy bag, and this is where technique meets raw force. He drills body shots, straight punches, and short hooks with the same intent he carries into a fight. Every punch is thrown with full form, hips turning, feet set, shoulders snapping. Then he shifts to the double-end bag, a tool that forces perfect timing and accuracy. It moves, sways, and bounces unpredictably, and Beterbiev has to hit it clean every time. That's where his precision comes from. He continues with the speed bag, sharpening rhythm, coordination, and shoulder conditioning. It keeps his hands light, his guard active, and his timing razor sharp. But his training isn't limited to the usual equipment. Beterbiev also puts in rounds on a wall-mounted heavy bag, a tool most modern fighters ignore. It's unforgiving, no sway, no give. It forces him to generate power from tight spaces, drilling short hooks and compact uppercuts, the same punches he uses when opponents try to clinch or smother him. Comes one of his most valuable tools, shadowboxing. For Beterbiev, this isn't a warm-up. It's a rehearsal for real combat. He visualizes opponents, adjusts angles, works on combinations, and fixes the smallest mistakes in his form. His shadowboxing is sharp, focused, and full of intent, almost like a silent sparring session. He even uses more unconventional drills, like the tennis ball cap exercise. With a ball tied to his hat, he moves, slips, and throws punches while reacting to the unpredictable motion of the bouncing ball. It sharpens his reflexes, his defensive reactions, and his hand-eye coordination. It's simple, but incredibly effective, the kind of drill that builds instincts. Finally, it all comes together with his footwork training. Ladder drills, ring-cutting patterns, lateral steps, pivots, and directional movement. Every drill is designed to make him balanced, grounded, and dangerous from every angle. His pressure works because his feet are always in the right place, not because he charges forward recklessly. This is the technical engine behind the destruction. Sparring, where champions are forged. If you want to understand why Artur Beterbiev hits so hard and breaks down world-class opponents, you have to look at his sparring. This is the part of camp where he separates himself from almost everyone else in the sport. Most elite fighters spar 4 to 6 rounds per session during camp, sometimes a bit more during peak weeks. Beterbiev routinely goes 10, 12, and even 15 rounds. And these aren't touch-and-go technical sessions. These are fight intensity rounds, where the pace, pressure, and physicality mirror what he expects on fight night. Over the years, his sparring partners have included high-level fighters such as David Lemieux, heavyweight puncher Arslanbek Makhmudov, Olympian Custio Clayton, and several other top amateurs and professionals from the Montreal boxing scene. These aren't hand-picked partners there to make him look good. They're selected because they can challenge him, impose resistance, and force him to solve problems under pressure. Before the Joe Smith Jr. fight, multiple reports from his camp described sparring sessions so demanding that partners had to be rotated frequently just to keep the pace. One fighter reportedly withdrew after absorbing a heavy body shot, and another declined a second session the next day. Trainers who've worked around Beterbiev consistently say the same thing. His sparring feels like a real fight. But none of this comes from malice. Beterbiev isn't trying to injure teammates. He's preparing his body and mind to operate under extreme fatigue. He conditions himself so that when it's the championship rounds, when the legs burn and the arms feel heavy, he can still deliver clean, accurate, fight-ending power. This is also where his devastating body attack is refined. Beterbiev is one of the most efficient body punchers in boxing, and that's not coincidence. In sparring, he consistently works the liver, the solar plexus, and the ribs with precise, compact hooks. These aren't wild shots. They're practiced, technically sound punches that come from years of drilling and thousands of high-intensity sparring exchanges. When you watch Beterbiev break an opponent down, remember that destruction was rehearsed, repeated, and perfected long before fight night. Mental preparation, the unseen advantage. What separates good fighters from great ones? Often it's what happens between the ears. Beterbiev's mental game is built on two foundations: confidence born from preparation and the discipline instilled by his background. First, the preparation. Beterbiev doesn't cut corners. He knows that when he steps into the ring, he's done everything possible to prepare. This isn't false confidence, it's earned certainty. When you've sparred 15 hard rounds in a session, fighting 12 rounds seems manageable. When you've done hundreds of hours of technical work, your skills are automatic under pressure. Second, the discipline. Beterbiev is a devout Muslim who maintains strict discipline in his personal life. He doesn't drink, doesn't party, and lives a lifestyle that's fully aligned with being an elite athlete. This mental discipline translates to his training. When it's time to work, there are no excuses, no negotiations with himself. There's also a quiet confidence about Beterbiev that's different from the trash-talking bravado of many modern fighters. He doesn't need to convince himself or anyone else that he's dangerous. He knows what he's capable of. And that inner certainty is more intimidating than any press conference performance. Visualization is another key component. Beterbiev has mentioned in interviews that he visualizes his fights extensively, seeing himself executing the game plan, overcoming adversity, and getting his hand raised. This mental rehearsal makes the actual fight feel familiar rather than foreign. Finally, there's his relationship with pressure. Beterbiev has fought in hostile territory, been on the wrong end of close rounds, and faced adversity in the ring. Each experience has added to his mental armor. He doesn't fear the moment, he's prepared for it. What can we actually learn from the way Artur Beterbiev trains? First, there are no shortcuts. Beterbiev is not a product of one good camp or one lucky year. He is the result of decades of consistent, structured, high-quality work. He started young, built a massive technical and physical foundation through the amateur system, and carried that same discipline into every stage of his professional career. Second, the old-school methods still hold tremendous power. Modern sports science has its place, but the fundamentals of boxing, long road work, rounds on the heavy bag, relentless drilling, and real technical refinement, continue to produce world-class fighters. Beterbiev is living proof that you don't need the newest gadgets or the flashiest ideas. You need work, repetition, and intent. Third, durability and insane work capacity are not built overnight. You can't copy Beterbiev's training program 6 months after joining a gym. His ability to push through enormous training volumes is the result of years of gradual adaptation, thousands of rounds, and a lifetime of conditioning. Fourth, the mind matters just as much as the body. Beterbiev's discipline, his calm under pressure, his confidence, these aren't accidents. They are trained. They come from structure, lifestyle, and the mentality he's lived with since childhood. And finally, focus is stronger than distraction. Beterbiev isn't trying to juggle celebrity life, social media fame, or a dozen side projects. He is a fighter, completely and unapologetically. His entire life is aligned toward one purpose, becoming the best and breaking whoever stands in front of him. At 39 years old, he remains one of the most respected and dangerous light heavyweights in the world. A fighter whose performances continue to show that his training philosophy still stands strong at the sport's highest level. The question isn't whether Beterbiev's training style works. 20 knockouts in 20 fights made that clear long ago. The real question is, do you have the discipline, the work ethic, and the mental toughness to train the way he does? Champions aren't born, they're built, one brutal session at a time.